Welcome, audiophiles and cinephiles alike, to the Beneflicks podcast, the series where we are reaping the Beneflicks one movie at a time. I'm Liz.
I'm Tyson.
That was me trying to speak in reverse. How you doing, man?
I'm very good.
Say it in reverse.
Huh?
Say it in reverse.
Reverse.
Good looks. Good looks.
I'm good.
You're good? Yeah.
How
good.
are you?
Oh, well, I think typically we kind of speak, and then I've noticed through editing the videos that we record, you don't ever really ask me how I'm doing. It's like, hey, how you doing? And you're like, cheese it to my toes, and then we go off tangent.
Well, usually because you go into like, it is a beautiful night, and we have a very beautiful topic today, and then you get into the topic.
It is a very Baphomet night, and we're gonna be getting demonic tonight.
I agree.
But thank you for asking. I'm good. Today was a good day. Spent the latter portion of last night editing something, but I don't want to act a bit too hasty and jump the gun because I really do want to link that into what we're talking about today. But I'm good. Started my whole new semester with classes. Really trying to balance that with work. Got denied my availability request. Kayla, my manager, if you're listening to this, why would you do that to me?
She denied it?
She denied it. Yeah.
That's baller.
Did I not tell you that?
Well, you said that she said, I don't know if that's going to work. But
Oh, no, it was basically, and I knew we were in for a rude awakening. And mind you, I really still don't understand because I work at a coffee shop. I won't be discreet, but a lot of the money goes to Israel, unfortunately. And I was at one point hired with open availability. That was a year and a half ago. Like I told Tyson, to equate it from then to now, we've had 2 entire Wicked movies. So it's like one would expect, yeah, you hired me for open availability, but times change. Had the request in, I texted her and she's like, oh, let's chit chat. I knew that was strike number one.
Shit.
That was strike number one. She didn't bring it up at all the day that she worked. And when my boss is a barista on floor,
Check this out.
it's
Check this out. Look at how fucking unwild. I have never noticed how long my toe hairs are.
I'm gonna hit delete on this episode right fucking now, bitch. I'm in the middle of telling a crisis story, and you show me your chia pet toe. There's no way.
This is crazy.
You're the only one that I know that has like seeds that you put on the parts of your toes that grow hair like that.
Oh, sure.
I don't get it. What? Do you have chest hair?
Not that much. My chest hair is actually pretty pathetic. Lokes.
But would you rather be hairy or not hairy?
I don't know. I think there's something really cool about hairy arms. Do you know the stepdad in Clarence? I always kind of equate that with hairy arms and being kind of like a gorilla mongoloid.
So wait, hold on. Is that the dude that's like bald and has long hair though? Like
yeah,
wait,
yeah.
but I thought that was Steven Universe's dad.
No. Sorry. Kind of the similar. It looks like the embodiment of like a gorilla.
Okay.
Do you know? Okay.
Uh-huh.
In the movie Undertone, which we're talking about today,
Yes.
they look up stuff on their computer. Can you
Yes.
look up the dad from Clarence, please?
Okay. You know what? We're gonna stay on brand. I'm gonna look it up on my phone because I don't know if my phone is gonna or my computer is gonna start overheating because of the amount of heat that we're putting onto it.
I think it's Jeff. No, it's not Jeff. Stepdad from Clarence.
And is it Clarence's stepdad?
Yeah, I believe so. He's like with Clarence's mom.
Does Clarence like this guy?
I don't know.
Stepdad from
I sure hope so. I sure hope he likes him.
Why does he have my hair?
Yeah,
but your hair too.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Anyways,
so sorry guys. What's his Chad? His name is Chad. Chad the stepdad.
For later.
Very, very original. I'm so sorry, guys. Actually, I'm not apologizing. You're the one that fucking shat on the bed. Like, that's not me, bitch.
My fault.
I'm potty trained. So, long story short, we sit down and she basically is like, hey, so just to keep in line with the people that were hired here with certain availability, I'm going to have to deny it, but I'm going to try everything in my power to make sure that you are not scheduled between 3:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. Mind you, my store is open for 20 hours a day, and all I'm asking is for a 3.5-hour differential. Couldn't even be done. Kayla, what the fuck, man?
What the fuck, Kayla?
If I didn't go on that story, would you have talked to me about your hairy foot?
I think I was just so kind of lost in the sauce because I already know the deeds.
You're typically vertical in bed
That's
too.
true.
Like you're like pretzeled up.
I have to be for this episode. At
Has
least.
that ever been like when you've been like in nice moments with people, like making out and stuff, have they ever been like, "You're really too hairy"?
No, because I'm not too hairy, funny enough. My legs are pretty hairy, but, like, I don't have
Sure.
crazy arm hair. Like I said, my chest hair isn't too crazy. Not crazy
Uh-huh.
armpit hair.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, I'm, like, kind of, like it's like it kinda forgot where the hair like, you've seen, like,
Yeah.
the feet, like, the weird
Y-
little, like
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's
Oh
fucked
yeah.
up.
No, because I mean, the indicator if like you wear your top and your shorts, but you just see your legs, like you would assume that's
No,
everywhere.
that's it.
You would be the fourth member of Sasquatch Sunset in
Low
that John.
key, it's kinda like photosynthesis, like, wherever the sun hits my body is where, like,
Hmm.
the hair predominantly grows.
Anyway, before I got rudely interrupted, guys, I'm so sorry. My time has been good. It's good to like plan a certain day, whether it be a week out in advance, a few weeks out in advance, or a couple days in advance, that I know I can at least dedicate to like recording an episode with you. You know, it's a nice ability to be guaranteed a day where there isn't too much noise, especially like something that gets me out of my house.
Agreed.
Because I think that's like where you and me differ a lot. Well, I wouldn't say differ a lot, but you are far more someone who initiates plans a lot of times where I can get lost in either like content creation being the thing that I do all day or just being stuck in my room. And I don't even like it per se, but I don't know. Getting hit by a car makes you kind of fearful for the world around you.
You're also a very busy individual. I feel like if I don't have the folks around me, don't have much going on. So I need
I
the
mean,
plans.
that's not entire. I feel like that's a little disservicing to you because like you work a full time job.
Sure, I guess like more so on days off. Like on today,
Mm,
if we weren't recording and watching our stuff, I would probably be at home just watching other things on the couch.
and it does make me a little sad. When was the last time you saw me log something that got you upset that I didn't log with you?
I was a little upset when you logged the father, mother, sister, brother.
Dude, you're in Japan.
I know, but like I was still like, oh, like I wanted to see that. I didn't know like you cared enough about that. But
I'm sorry.
besides that, it's kind of rare.
Mhm.
Does Wake Up Dead Man count?
You can be upset over
I
that.
can count that. Technically, you didn't even log it.
No,
You didn't
that
log
you
it.
wanna give a little tidbit as to how that unveiled? Because that is actually such a funny story.
Sure, I guess more so it was kind of like I we had kind of made plans and we were really excited for this thing, and then I think just we were kind of pushing to watch it towards the end of a weekend.
Yeah.
And then coincidentally, you had made plans with your partner earlier in the weekend, not even to watch the movie, but just in the area. And from what I understand, a pretty hard day for yourself.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
you kind of indulge a little bit and just much more in a spur of the moment need something kind of to push forward. And
Mhm.
even to your own admission, you didn't even fully like aren't able to engross yourself in that viewing.
No.
And then I found out that you watched it through your partner's letterbox log, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Well, 2 context clues that you have been omitting. One, they logged it when they were out, like, on the curb of a club, like, they had gone, like, drinking and having some fun with, like, their siblings or
Oh, I
something,
forgot about that. Yeah,
and to their word, it was like, I was feeling really good, and it made me think about a really good movie, so I logged it.
beautiful.
And heart was in the right place, and again, I wasn't saying, like, "Oh, don't log it, Tyson's gonna kill me," but also, like, just a crazy, crazy fucking time, and also, I think what you're also not bringing up is the fact when you went to go see it,
Yeah, that
r
was after I found out.
yes, but we hadn't really talked about it that much,
No,
like,
we
we
hadn't.
hadn't hung out, and I remember because I was in the same sort of now a now defunct movie theater, like, I
Yeah.
was in the shopping area of it, and but, like, if I could stage it for listeners, my back is turned to you as I'm sitting on a chair with a table in front of me and my partner in front of me,
Yes.
so they can see behind me, and they give this look like they're recognizing someone,
Mhm.
and then you show up, and I'm like, is this planned? Like,
It's an
w
intervention.
because I had, like, checked your location and you were, like, 40 to 50 miles in a different spot.
That's true.
So and then you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see the movie."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Is this low key like an American Psycho power play? Like, you have a laminated card, I have, like, a folded Pokemon one?" But anyway, I am doing good. I'm glad you're doing good.
We'll pause real quick. Give me an inverse of that situation. A time I logged something that
Oh,
has ever
sure.
happened, or
The
just most
last
recently.
time you logged something that made me kinda sad, it's a cheat because, like, No, I maybe hard boiled a little bit. Like that one made me a little
Yeah,
sad
sure.
because like Hong Kong cinema, there's certain thresholds of movie subgenres that I need a shameless excuse to watch, and it isn't because I'm not wanting to watch any Hong Kong
No,
cinema
you don't
action.
watch that with your buddy.
N-
That's like a buddy thing you watch.
for
And
sure.
to be fair, that was completely sprung on me. I was not with the mindset of I'm gonna watch Hard Boiled today. A friend just came over, was like, I want to watch this. I was like, I guess so. It's on my watch
No,
list.
and I think that's why it's a little bit more difficult for me because I know you have the ability that I do not, which is you are.
The Batman. When I
Oh,
logged that most recently,
you know
you were
what? That you know what? Because I don't even think I was doing anything that day. And again, I'm not trying to say, and we've talked about it, right?
sure,
It's not
yeah.
like you're free, I'm free. We let's hang out all the time because there's
Yes.
been plenty of times where we don't. That only made me sad because of right before we went to record the episode that we are releasing before this, our best scenes of the year video
For
of
2025,
2025.
yes.
Go check that out, my friends. Your roommates were watching it, and it was subsequently they had made carrot cake, specifically partially with me in mind.
Yes.
It was cold, just the way it should be. And then the Batman's ladder third, which funny enough, I think is its visually most uninteresting thing, but that's picking like three of your favorite kids, you
That's
know?
true. And it also had that crazy shot where like it's all inconceivable behind a rat cage. Yeah.
Ugh, it's ridiculous. And also side note to the side note, and don't worry, we'll be getting to the movie at hand. And again, if you have any commentary about any of the commentary we're putting out here, email us in at beneflickspod@gmail.com. No one has emailed us in yet, friends. I know that's not something that like we're sad about, but we are sad about it, you know?
We love to hear folks. We love to hear any sort of input from
Yeah.
anybody.
Maybe 10 audio files with children's music and prayers and hymns and happenings about.
We would sideline so hard into like the horror story kind of content if we had to, because truthfully, if we sat here and listened to like 10 supposedly like haunted audio files, we'd for sure eat that up.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun.
But between you and me, who do you think would be the most like after recording disgruntled by it? Like who do you think it would you, right? Because it's in this is in your
Yes and no, because you're more spiritual than me. Not in the like a
sure.
traditional like
Yeah.
Christian or Catholic sense, but you are by proxy more spiritual than
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah.
I truly would take the stance of this is a hoax, or at least the way I see it.
Mhm.
Um, I also think as well you have to deal with a lot more religious imagery at your household. So coming home and seeing, I'm like, I just saw your
Mm.
house recently, it's like walking in and immediately seeing like a bloody painting of Christ as you
Yeah.
walk to your
Yeah.
hallway.
And then like an AI deepfake photo of my dog, but it's like a
It was
painting.
AI?
Not at all. My sister painted
Oh,
it.
thank God,
But
okay.
it's like one of those like I'm so sorry if you're listening to this. Actually, if she's listening, that's crazy. But it's a decent painting. It's of our dog Odie. He's an adorable dog, but I guess she didn't get the eyes right. So if you look at it at a certain angle, it's like one of those paintings that the eyes follow you,
Oh,
but it turns
shit.
from a normal dog to like a cross-eyed dog.
No, she got it right.
No, she actually got it on lock. Actually, moral of the story. But I don't. I think it's a little, and we can talk about it more when we give our thoughts to Undertone because we kind of have already talked about what we feel about the movie,
Yes.
which I'm not going to kind of lean if that's to the movie's favor or not. But I don't. Do you think? And I really want to tie this in to the movie eventually. I promise you, we're going to get there. How many things? And you don't have to give me an actual number numerically here, but who do you think would tell the person first that some shit is happening? Like, who would be the one to disregard it the longest? I guess.
I think you would disregard it longer because you have a tendency for bad shit going on in your life to keep it a bit closer to you.
Okay.
So I think by like that's like, oh shit, the counter went up. By proxy,
Oh,
um,
it keeps going. We have a by proxy meter. It's
my
it's
fault,
it's it's
guys.
your tagline, but I at least you have a tagline that no one else has. You
That's
know.
true. But I do think like you are so used to maybe like as a coping mechanism or just because you've dealt with so much bullshit,
Hmm.
um, that like bad stuff happening, you're able to kind of hold that in for a bit longer until it seems like there's more of like an impact to dropping that news.
Yeah.
Um, like for example, like 2 episodes ago or last episode, whatever, I can't remember when you mentioned it exactly. bringing up the text from your mom, which you
Yeah.
hadn't even told me about, which happened like a
Yeah.
week or two prior.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you're very much in tune with like leaving stuff like that a bit closer to you and not airing it out as quickly.
Sure.
For me, I think I would rebuke it sooner rather than later, but I also wouldn't do it to a point of like ignorance. Like if I saw a door shut on its own for no reason, I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, like it must have been a coincidence, must be my mind playing tricks on me. Like I'd be like, okay, like there's some shit going down.
Yeah.
We did something very bad by listening to these audio files.
Yeah. And I know the way that we romanticize the things that get us scared. I think in many ways it's just been a Oh my fucking
I
god.
promise we're not gonna leave the lights off the entire episode. I
Okay.
was turning
Sorry.
them
As I'm talking, Tyson turns the lights off and I'm like, "Wait, that's kind of brilliant." But then I'm feeling a slither in my feet. Um I think the biggest issue that it would face with us is we have our safe word. We have it.
we do, which you used for no fucking reason
And
today,
I
but
actually
sure.
I do deeply apologize that I've never once used it for the sake of a joke, and I'll never do it again because then it's like, what's the point in a safe word if you're just going to be joshing about it the whole time?
Beautiful.
But I think the issue would arise that you and I would either revel in it as a form of how we can turn it into our own art or what we would think is a bit that the other is playing. Because the
Yeah.
only time that we've ever had to actually use the safe word where we thought we were doing a game of smoke and mirrors to each other was like when we're in line for a special movie event that was sold out and then you were like, "Oh, just pull up the tickets." I was like, "I didn't get the tickets. You got the tickets." And
Yeah.
you really thought I was fucking and then I thought you were fucking with me,
Yeah.
and then and to the onlookers of our friends watching, it probably looked like we were speaking gibberish.
Yeah, no, it was actually pretty brutal, but thankfully we have a safe word now, and I do think that if we ever got some into some tricky shit with ghosts or spirits or
Mhm,
whatever, I think to some degree as well, I wouldn't be as like, oh, like the apartment's haunted, we have to move out. I think if it started like uplifting my life, like in the film, I think it gives her like bad dreams and stuff. And like
mhm,
I wasn't able to get good sleep, but then I'd be like, okay, like I cannot do this. Like it's
mhm.
making my life miserable. If it was like a closing door here and there, or like
Yeah.
cabinets closing on their own or opening on their own, and nothing too crazy.
Mhm.
Maybe this is like famous last words because probably everyone's thought process in a horror movie. It's like it's not bad or no one's getting hurt, and then
Yeah.
inevitably
Yeah.
someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
But I do think like once it started to like upset me, I would then try to leave it if I was able to.
Sure. Sure. Well, in a hypothetical where your safe word was the two words put together, undertone, how would you describe that if it was a movie?
How I would describe if my two safe words were under and tone as a
Uh-huh.
movie.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
um Basically, there is 2 podcasters, but the film supplants its focus on our main character, her name being
Evie?
Evie,
Uh-huh.
yes. Evie, who is at her childhood home, which I presume, with her hospice and very sick mother, who
Yes.
is on her last limbs, basically.
Mhm.
Essentially, she's kinda just waiting for her mom to die in a sense, or
Yeah.
waiting for it to happen. And she runs this podcast with her co-host where they basically discuss creepy or haunted subject matter.
Mhm.
I guess I can't remember verbatim what exactly what like content forms they dive into, but it seems like they just kind of focus on anything that's kind of creepy or maybe like a bit mysterious.
Yeah.
And they get sent from an anonymous person these 10 audio files which catalog someone's experience with their partner speaking while they're sleeping,
Mhm.
and then from there, as things play out through these audio files, where each one gets more and more intense,
Mhm.
things start happening in the real world for Evie, or well, at least what she perceives as the real world,
Yeah.
and that is undertone.
Now, talk to me real quick, man, because I think you brought up something very, I don't want to say fascinating because I ain't going to give you too much credit on it,
My fault.
But I I think A24, and I want to bring this up right now because if this was in terms of what we're talking about, if that's toothpaste in the bottle, I want to get that out immediately
Let's do it.
because I'm really frustrated with the stigma that I think although maybe A24 isn't the only one exclusively doing or being lauded as, it is the one to start it, which is oftentimes I think people conflate A24 with actually having involvement with the making of this movie or any of their movies in their catalog, when in
Yes.
reality it's purely a distributor. When you had said to me yesterday we were talking about the gearing up to watch Undertone.
Yes.
You had talked to me about they're not really, I think, post. What was the movie? Like after.
Oh, I basically said that like Beau is Afraid scared them from actually making interesting film, especially like taking risk on debut filmmakers.
Sure. And although I know your answer since we've talked about it, because you had asked me if I agree, and I retorted that with saying like something like "Sorry, Baby," which was Eva Victor's debut, is something that kind of puts that to shame. But I agree. I think the bigger they've gotten, the more slop they've kind of put out. My question to you is, and maybe we should have talked about this a little bit before the pod. Can you name or rattle in the past few years, specifically within the horror genre, a debut that has really taken you by surprise? If there's anything in your mind, I can come up with like a few that have been framed as amazing that I thought were just solid. Um, Most recent, I would say the one that is the thing that I feel I'm the one leading the charge on is like Iron Lung, which is a pretty
Sure.
terrific film debut, despite Markiplier having done like a lot of the YouTube original like stuff, first person choose your own adventure
Yeah,
stuff.
Ghostmates.
Sure. But like outside of that, even in the A24 catalog, you have the Filippo brothers doing Bring Her Back and Talk to Me, and a lot of people really love Talk to Me.
That is true.
I would lean more towards really liking it than actually loving it, similarly to Bring Her Back. But there is a plenty great amount of debuts that are really just finding light. I think like Barbarian would be up there for me.
And this is specifically the horror genre, correct?
Yes, yes, because I want to tie this into, I guess, your thoughts going into Undertone.
Yeah, I mean, so kind of scanning through
Uh huh.
kind of just my recent watches, a lot of these horror films that I am a bit more privy to are
Yeah.
not debuts.
Hmm.
Um, obviously we can't count it, but it kind of feels like Smile 2 being such a
Yeah.
extension of the
Yeah.
first one in a lot of ways. Um, Heretic, I think that's a debut,
No
correct?
shot. No.
Oh, it's not?
No. Well,
Oh.
although I would love to agree
Oh,
with
they
you,
made 65? Sorry, I'm so sorry.
I
I
I,
don't
I
even know
love
why.
65, but
I don't
okay.
even know why I tried.
It's okay. It's okay.
Um,
One that I do wanna shout out. I mean, it's a little bit of a deeper cut from like 6 years ago. Saint Maud. That movie fucking
yeah, yeah,
ripped.
Same Mods is great.
Another one that I was thinking was The First Omen.
Is that a debut?
Arcacia Stevenson, she had only at the time done short films and like helped to direct a couple episodes of a show.
Fuck yeah, then that's a real ass debut. Fuck yeah.
I guess what I'm kind of like wanting to ask is, has the now hugely accepted and oftentimes celebrated genre that is horror jaded your viewpoint when you go into horror feature debuts now, as to being like, is it now stunty? Because a lot of it, I think, is writing on like, oh, this is the scariest movie of all time, sort of thing.
Sure.
Does that affect your perception of these movies going in, or are you purely still able to register them for what they are going in and what it's been marketed to you as?
I think to some degree, talking about like the conversation of elevated horror has always fascinated me. When we
Hmm.
created our first film, that was kind of the entire premise of it was not spoofing or parroting elevated horror, but very much like looking at it from a lens of what its
Hmm.
purpose is, especially when it came to male directors telling stories where
Yeah.
the main person in distress was a woman. Um, and I feel very much ever since Ari Aster and Robert Eggers have kind of shaken up the genre a lot with horror, and
Hmm.
obviously including Jordan Peele in that conversation, a lot of horror feels like it has to have a necessity to mean more, which is never a bad thing. I don't think that we should ever tell people to not give more meaning or give more
Yeah.
substance to their creation, to their art, right? I love when films swing big for themes and ideas. But I do think to some degree that a lot of people get so concerned with making it thematically dense,
Yeah.
or at least try to tie all together thematically, that it ends up dropping the ball a lot of instances when it comes to just making a effective horror film.
Mhm.
Um, there's kind of like that ongoing joke now that all of horror is like trying to tie into like the generational trauma of it all through like
Yeah.
Hereditary. And that is a funny thing, like a funny commonality to identify, but it's also one that is very much existent.
Mhm.
Um, I think what's really interesting about the genre right now where it lays is that we are kind of getting a very interesting fusion, a pincer movement, if you will,
Temporal. Yeah.
temporal pincer movement, if you will.
Big time.
With I hate to be a broken record because I feel like we brought it up every single episode, but SOV filmmaking and with more liminal filmmaking, with more indie filmmaking,
Yeah.
um, there is something exciting about the fact that Skinamarink was shown theatrically and people were walking out of it. Like that's cool. And people were walking out of it because it took such a big swing and such a big risk, which that'd probably be my answer for the last debut that like really excited me, even at first not loving Skinamarink, like quite literally like shook up the genre in such a crazy way and
Good answer.
will continue to shake up the genre in a multitude of ways. Um, and that was one where it didn't feel like it was necessarily trying to tie in a bigger theme of generational trauma or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
And we've seen how films have literally shot themselves in the foot when it comes to stuff like that. Like Men, for example, directed by Alex Garland, is an example of a film that is so insistent on its thematic language and on its symbolism and what it's trying to say underneath the surface that it almost forgets to fortify its surface
Yeah.
so you can kind of see right through it.
Sure.
um Looking at A24's catalog, because I think I said that with very limited, like perspective. There's been a lot of interesting debuts since Beau is Afraid. Maybe not specifically talking horror, but they've made a lot of cool stuff. I mean, technically speaking, Talk to Me was after Beau was Afraid.
Yeah.
People love Talk to Me.
Yeah.
Um, there was also stuff like, working with The Front Room, for example, although not the best
Are you
from one
fucking
of her.
serious?
I mean, at the very least, my thing is that seemed like a bit of a swing. It wasn't there wasn't as much of a like it wasn't like a Death of a Unicorn or an Opus where it was relying on name recognition to get people in seats or faces to get into seats.
Why do you think they have to though? It's because movies like The Front Room fucking suck
Sure,
so
they
bad.
suck and they bomb. I guess we didn't see it, so we can't speak too crazily.
True,
But
true, true, true.
they have made interesting stuff. I mean, like I said, debuts. I guess I can't speak to it as quickly as I wish I could.
No, you're good.
But If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Not a horror film.
Is that a debut?
I believe so.
I,
Yes.
I, I didn't watch it, so
Yeah.
I'll base that off of you.
Pillion.
That's a
That
debut
that is a
too.
debut, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Oh wow.
So just stuff like that, like, they're still doing interesting debuts, but I do think that the A24 brand has kind of shifted from being predominantly horror, which I would say because of the success of Hereditary and
Mhm.
Midsommar and The Witch and The Lighthouse and films of that nature, it very much has always kind of been geared to be a horror
Sure.
kind of distribution company. Um, I think they're becoming a lot more interesting when it comes to producing and distributing films that aren't of the horror genre. Look, Sorry Baby, produced by
Yeah.
A24.
Yeah.
That is a debut. Um, and they'll still take swings, like even though we didn't love Legend of Ochi, that is to some degree like
It's
a pretty
technically
big
still a
swing.
swing.
There's puppetry and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I think
Mhm.
stop motion. So
Yeah.
they're doing interesting stuff, whether a lot of it recently feels like it hasn't been working.
No.
They do some, like, highest to lowest. I guess they distributed that. I didn't even know that.
I,
But
I always equate that to being an Apple TV movie, but that is a
N
fair point.
Ninja too.
That is an A20. Oh,
Yeah,
they'll be fine for the rest of their life.
I guess so. They made
A
more
billion
money than
dollars.
God.
So, you talk about some shakeups. Did you feel that Undertone potentially shook up the bomb beam tree? Or because honestly, there's some movies that when we watch, I feel like not that I'm gonna call it like push and wait, but like I gotta get you on. Like I don't think there's many movies where like I have not wanted to watch it and you have, where it's like,
Sure.
dude, you come on, we got to do this. And
Yeah.
it's not like you're like a bump on the log and being like, I'm not going. It's like, no, we're gonna go see this, but I'm like, no, I think this is gonna be fire. And a lot of times blows up in my face. A lot of times it doesn't pan out. Sometimes it doesn't work for you, and it works for me a lot more because I think I
Sure.
know what I'm getting into, and you do as well, but you don't think it's gonna work.
Sure.
Rarely do you think it works more for you than it does me.
True.
But with this one, I the trailers didn't wow me, but I think it is the stories I've heard about Ian Tuason, the filmmaker, and this being his debut. And I think the big entry point for me was that we had already known that he is going to be directing the next Paranormal Activity,
Hmm.
and that shit got me excited.
Sure.
That got me jazzed. So going into this and now coming out of it, what did you think of Undertone?
I thought the film was very effective for what it was. And, I walked out and the first thing I said to you was I'm very grateful for films that can still get me scared. I think I said this in our first episode, but like I'm not someone who is very easy to be scared. I think
Mhm.
I've just seen a lot of stuff by a very young age where most modern horror doesn't do it for me. Granted, I'll still squint my eyes if I think I'm gonna get jump scared. I don't
Yeah.
like to be jump scared, but and to be truly scared is a very rare thing for me. I do think Undertone does achieve that, which that's the biggest compliment I can give a horror film is yeah, like it is genuinely scary.
Mhm.
And I know I'm not alone in that experience because I've heard a lot of people say that the last 20 minutes are extremely scary.
Mhm.
Um, so first and foremost, that's exciting because I think also when you talk about Paranormal Activity, that was a genre like people think the first Paranormal Activity is like the scariest movie of all time. That movie has terrified so many. I remember having maybe not nightmares, but core memories of watching the second one and being scared, and stuff like that. So the
Without
genre,
question.
or sorry, not genre, but the series has very much lost a lot of muster when it
It's
comes to
must.
yeah, it's not as scary as it once was. So knowing that the guy who's gonna be in charge of the next film knows how to craft a genuinely scary horror film is exciting. Do I think it's a perfect film? Not at all. And I'm not really looking for a perfect film when it comes to a debut. Do I think that it's taking enough of a risk to make me excited for his future endeavors? Of course, I think that, one thing I can give this film is its just commitment to the bit,
Yeah.
people like to kind of clown on it, but playing, nursery rhymes in reverse and kind of having that have like a satanic tinge might seem easy, and it kind of is easy, but god damn it, it commits to it all the way through. It never mocks it. It genuinely
Yeah.
treats it scary, and I think that's what makes the film so effective. Um, so yeah, no, all that being said, I would say have a lot more thoughts, but I do think overall it was a scary, effective, and enjoyable horror film, which coming
Mhm.
from a genre that can feel very stunted and doesn't have like a lot of leg room at times, it's very refreshing seeing something done that is very simple but done very well and effectively.
Good answer,
What
good
about you?
answer. When I came out of the theater, God, it was a blistering fucking sun when we came out of that theater.
Hot day.
It was a very hot day. I think I could agree that there was a bit of gratitude that I was really beaming with. Not per se that the film still scares me because I do think I'm a bit more of an easier crowd to get scared by things, and I'm not even just talking about, like, jump scares. I'm a person that I wouldn't say I get scared a lot, but I can scare pretty easily. Now for it to win me over by that regard is a different story.
Sure.
And when I came out of the film, I felt an overwhelming sense of, I guess the word I would come up with would be, like, hunger to not try to make an Undertone 2.0. And I think funny enough, even if you're not an artist, there's often the complaint that is lobbied towards different movies where it's like, I would have done it differently. I would have not done it that way. I would have done it alternatively. Or just the at the end being like, I would have done it differently without any sort of constructive criticism to it. Now, I don't think I would have ever done Undertone, but having seen this film that I do think works to more strengths than it does weaknesses, it has been a horror film in a hot minute. I feel remiss to say as far back as Longlegs because A, I feel like that's adding a lot more weight to that film, but B, I'm also trying to think in my head of a movie where we last saw it together and we're like, "Holy fucking shit." Like, in terms of horror, that it got
Mm,
us, you know? And I could be totally off base with it. I mean, like, rewatching *Malignant*, I don't get jazzed to make things, I get jazzed to enjoy art, but it's
I
also,
agree.
like that's like comparing Da Vinci to, like, AI paint, you know? It's like there's no one ever gonna do it. It just made me appreciative that
Sure.
James Wan exists.
Yes.
Um, but, like, there's these rare horror films where I come out of them, and I'm gonna kinda spoil what followed for that day. Um, I had basically been spending a large majority of the past few days, and including even this morning, editing footage in which we shot all the way back last year, July, somewhere like that.
July, June, around
It's
that time,
it's
yeah.
fucking crazy the way time
2025.
works. Yeah, and it was a project that we were not, like, saying that we are going to submit it to any film festivals or that, like, having our name makes us so proud, but it was merely getting people together, familiar faces and some new on and off the camera to just get us to do something because adulthood, life takes over, and it seizes an opportunity for us to actually make things, whether it's doubts, time, money, whatever. And to cut a long story short, there was a lot of issues that were riddled during the making of that movie.
Very much so.
A lot of frustrations, a lot of heartache, to a point where I'm not going to speak on behalf of you, but there was a part of me that just gave the footage to our resident editor and said, make something with it, you know?
Yes, I agree.
And I'm not going to go into any detail about what their life was, but you know, life took over, and there's a lot of difficulties on all of our ends that kind of made that go shelved, and we kind of didn't really talk about. We talked about the process of making it, but not actually to a point where it was like, let's make something with it.
No, because I think we all had the the idea
Hmm.
of us making it was very much mostly dependent on the process.
Agreed.
Not speaking of how it transpired, but rather like you said, like it was to get the fire burning under our seats,
Hmm.
to get the drive going, to get comfortability going, to
Yeah.
say, hey, we actually can create something, even if it's something that's very short, shot in a day.
Hmm.
We just needed momentum. We just wanted to create momentum. So even if the film or the product came out not to our liking, at least the very least we can know
Hmm.
with basically like a week of planning, we can go out, we can shoot something that's somewhat coherent and be at least see aspects to it that we can take from.
Exactly, and I chose through, I guess, a couple of different handoffs, the footage became available for me. It
Yes.
was all just the unedited takes. I think I found there's 36 shots that we had, a total of,
Ugh.
like, 50 minutes almost worth of footage, and I just started going to town, you know, and over the past, like, day and a half, I just was editing for continuity, the scenes, and then these little, like, flickers of ideas were coming into my head to kinda segment these vignettes that were shot. And a long story short to say, today I finished it, and I was really excited to show you it, and I think funny enough, now then jumping to now, having shown you its final product and knowing that we can kind of put that behind us, but to also say that there's never been footage that we've shot that we have not edited. And coming off of this, and as we are recording a podcast, I'm feeling very, very driven right now because we're recording on a podcast that we've been talking about since 2023. You know, basically
Yes.
since the first few months of us getting to know each other, and we've let that whisk us by, and we've let this project go unedited, and coming out of this, I have complaints with the film. I think when you are basing your film entirely within an audio heavy sort of approach of these podcasters, horror podcasters, and you add a score to it, no matter if it is as they're recording or when they're not, it to me takes me out of the film and loses a bit of what could have been such an authentic approach to the idea of, like, manipulating an audience as you're recording a podcast by how you talk, how you present yourself, what you add in terms of sound and whatnot. But I think the film sticks to a more main, streamlined idea of a score elevating scenes and trying to make you more scared. But I think if it just left it to just pure sound of these people talking or the settling of a home or whatnot, like, it would have worked so much better for me. Um, and there's, like, a few things like that, you know? There's, like, performance issues that I have with the movie in terms of, like, the actors. But at the end of the day, like, my flaws with the film are all ones where it would have been like, I would have done that differently, comma, why don't I? Dot dot dot.
Exactly.
And so whether it was the conversation that we had after, and I do also want to give this fucking movie credit, for a film, and I can honestly say since Alien Romulus, where it was posited to us as the last reveal or the last 20 minutes are some sadistic shit. You kind of go in playing detective and like waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
But I will admit, like, and I told you, when the movie finishes, I had like a couple dry tears in my, and like, I haven't felt like my hands feel as sweaty as they did, even with the faults, even with the bumpy journey that it had. And we saw it in a theater that has a sound system, obviously better than a regular TV at home. But I am so beyond curious to see what this movie operates as and feels like when I can listen to it with headphones on.
Yeah.
Um, all that to say, I left this arguably in a better position than I would have if I just said I unanimously love this as a masterpiece. Whereas I liked a lot of it, I loved some of it, I was frustrated by a little bit of it, but it nonetheless got me fucking fired up, dude.
Yeah, no, I think horror is such an interesting genre, the way it's marketed towards young people who have aspirations in like the filmic world.
Hmm.
As someone who went to film school along with you, a lot of teachers, and I think this is kind of a universal approach to like film school teachers and what they say to their students, they encourage horror filmmaking in terms of there have been countless examples of it's very cheap. There's a lot of kickback from it.
Yeah.
You can make a horror film for $10,000. You have the right elements, you do the right things, you're making $10 million from that, and
Hmm.
that jumpstarts your career. A lot of filmmakers that we know and love today got their start in the horror genre, and a lot of horror filmmakers who start out, Saw was made for less than $1 million, right? And James Wan has
Oh
one of
yeah.
like the most prolific. I mean, guys on track to direct Avatar 4, right? So very much like horror can get you to the places you want to go in the industry. But I do think that it is so pushed and steamrolled in a sense where it's very easy to lose sight of what makes low budget horror effective. We
Yeah.
kind of brought up the Blair Witch today and how effective of a horror film that is because of what you don't see and because of how low budget it is and because
Hmm.
of how bad it looks. And there's a lot of elements beyond that that work very well. I mean, the edit's very strong.
Hmm.
The lead actress and the main actors are very strong.
Terrific.
Um, but it really is the um the formula that it approaches its story in and how effective that is that really makes that film
Hmm.
as culturally important as it is. Um, and I do think that like when you are someone who loves to make movies, even if you're not someone who wants to make horror films, it is such a interesting challenge to posit yourself into how would I frame this separately, or are they framing this as effectively as you think they can, or
Sure.
especially with this film, I think a very underrated use of horror films is the sound. I mean, there's a reason why the original Alien is so effective because of all of the sounds that are being, sound edited and mixed,
Yeah.
the diegetic sound and whatnot. Like it very much it has its a very important factor in the atmosphere and creating such a tone for horror film.
Hmm.
And I feel like people get so hung up on the score or the gore or the general pacing of things, and all of which is extremely important for the genre, but I would argue that one of the most important is the sounds of how are you establishing location where this person is or where your main character is, and how are you establishing the sounds that you want your villain to create.
Yeah.
And in this film especially, do you want more sounds that are haunting or do you want the silence?
Yeah.
And that's why I think this movie works so well because you kind of want the scary sounds being played. It's almost a bit comforting being like, at least like there's a lot going on around me. So it's overwhelming to a point of I don't have to worry about anything else but the sounds going on. But as soon as those headphones are taken off and you're back to the quiet house, you're almost like, fuck, like I'm exposed now. Like I'm no
That's
longer
a very good
surrounded.
point.
Um I think this film has a very good understanding of that, and that's why I agree with you. I'm very curious to see what he does with Paranormal Activity
8.
8. I saw
Yeah.
someone say it was 7. I don't know if that means that they're not counting Next of Kin, but Paranormal Activity 8.
Yeah, no, it's definitely 8.
Um, but because that's a genre, or sorry, that's a series as well, where we binge that entire thing. We've seen the lows and the highs
At random
at
too.
random. A lot of lows, more lows than highs,
Oh yeah.
unfortunately,
Oh
which
yeah.
we kind of were expecting. But we both are under the opinion that Paranormal Activity 2 is phenomenal, a
Agreed.
benchmark horror film, and one that is the clear defining example of how to do found footage well on just a formula level, on an
Hmm.
editing level, on
Hmm.
a sound level. Um, and this guy has a very good understanding of that just with his debut on a limited budget
Yeah.
in the studio confines. I am fearful that they might muddy what his capabilities are. However, it's not like this film is like some experimental avant-garde
No.
bullshit. Like this is a kind of by the numbers horror film that still manages to be effective.
Hmm.
So I have to imagine that his take on Paranormal Activity will be equally as effective, if not more so.
No, I'm very interested to see where it goes because I think what makes like our favorite entry, Paranormal Activity 2, work, and funny enough, the stark contrast that it has from the second to what people would say is the best one, the third, is, and I wish I could have the word for it, where it's the camera is without any sort of like bias or movement. It is
It's
like this.
objective.
It films it in such objectivity because
Yes.
for I would argue 80 to 90% of the movie, it is the home security footage.
Yes.
And I really do not, well, I unfortunately actually do because I think the pivot to then the found footage horror craze that then that franchise created craved being subjective, you being as in terms of like as reactionary as possible to the camera operator
Yeah.
who never has any personality whatsoever, but is always
Yes.
walking slower. And like the jump from like the objectivity of or the second and then to the third where it's literally being rigged on like a fan.
Yes.
And I went in with that being like, oh, that's the best one. And came out of the second, I was like, holy fucking shit. And I think a lot of it has to deal with, especially like knowing where you live too, like now and grew up, like the homes, especially like on the hilltops, are very indicative of what that sort of suburbic living was like in Paranormal Activity 2. There's a lot of layers to it.
Yes.
Point being, I think what Ian Tuason does is recreate the feeling of what you brought up, interestingly so, of what it feels like to listen to a podcast. The way in which your eyes wander, not just on an audio level, but on a visual level. The camera often rotates in sort of similarity and tandem to what is being said, or how the character who is listening to these files, there is a lull, there is a high intensity moment. And I think the way that he's able to capture that medium into the movie makes me very curious to see what he is going to do going forward with Paranormal Activity. And I have to admit, and I will always say this, context will forever matter. And knowing that, like, he would often rewrite the script as he was taking care of his own, I believe, mother while she was in hospice, but also the fact that it was shot in his own childhood home in Toronto is like, and I said it to you before we saw the movie, like, that is just fucking awesome, you
Yeah.
know? And admittedly, I will say that I think the movie's greatest strength, despite its technical flourishes, is the fact that I do think the film has a very compelling narrative and a purpose for existing and wedding the sort of podcast horror audio medium to what this lead podcaster is going through. And I think the way that this movie kind of ascertains that notion of the guilt, and I won't divulge too much into it, but like the feelings you feel when you've been so far in trying to take care of a parent and sort of what you regret not being able to have said or done is some really terrific shit that then again leads to a final 20 minutes, which you've heard from everyone if you're aware of this movie, is terrifying, is sadistic, but it's just also very bleak. And I
Yes.
think it works wonders. And maybe it's the kind of film, and I do think sometimes films are okay to be given the pass for this, where in concept it maybe works or after the fact in your head a lot more than it does in practice.
Yes.
But it's the kind of shit where like, oh no, there is, and I will admit, like, funny enough, the first time the movie, I guess, like, quote unquote, tries to scare you is easily its worst scare in the movie to a point where I'm like, oh, is this the kind of movie we're gonna get?
Mm,
And luckily, I don't think that is the film that follows. There's maybe like in total 2 jump scares that I really just did not fuck with, maybe 2.5, I'll admit. But like there is shit, and I do think it does fall into the trope of having such a gross use of shallow depth of field where one of the beauties of I think some moments in this film and what I think about what we could make is when you are making a film that is all about claustrophobia, I wish the film maybe played more with the notion of what the film could have been while she is listening to these tapes versus when she isn't, you know? But I
yes.
think on a filmic level, aesthetically, it is pretty much things are very close to the frame and the background is blurred, which then makes scenes be like, oh, what's that behind her? But I think what someone like Mike Flanagan does fucking wonderfully is he always has it in frame. And that arguably I think is even scarier because you can see it so clearly and identifiably, but they can't, you know?
Or the whole aspect of, okay, like, it's so dark you can't see past it, but because it's not
Yeah.
in, because, like, it is still in focus, if something were to come out, you're going to see it, like, you cannot hide behind the blur. I do
Yeah.
think, like, the blur is like a double-edged sword where it is kind of making your mind question if you're seeing things that you're not actually seeing, but
Yeah.
at the same time, if there was something actually there, it won't be as pop out in your face to it. So it works for the film and against it. I just think that because the film is so insistent on it, it kind of takes away from the potential it has, especially because this director has no issue when it comes to finding things to frame and interesting ways to frame the same setting. I will
Oh yeah.
give most of the shots are pretty fresh, and even the ones that are repetitious kind of always have some expansion upon them later in the film.
Mhm.
So I would love to see a bit more variety when it comes to how he's using his focus and how that plays into the horror aspect. Because I do think, I mean, we always talk about it, but like if you're shooting for under $500,000, like don't be afraid to shoot it on a camcorder and get freaky with it, dude.
Yeah, and just spend the rest of the money on like twisted teas and like fucking awesome gourmet crafty, you
Yeah, kind
know?
of mean.
Because you're only as good as the shit you put in your body type deal, you know?
Very much so.
But I yeah, I it does there's a part of me that makes me a little sad, like, um, you know, it makes me like, there something like The Backrooms, right? Unfortunately, I do know that, like, the greatest charm of The Backrooms technically is Kane Parsons, right? Like, that guy, he knows how to do it. I doubt the film is going to look like it is shot on some dingy ass camcorder, you know?
Nope.
And I wish we kind of strayed away from the idea and concept that every film that proceeds the last that the filmmaker has, or just for a studio to acquire something, it has to look good. And you know, you're totally right. I think that's why I think Skinamarink is maybe one of the scariest films to have ever been crafted. And the fact that off of, and I won't even really say it is on the distributor's shoulders, but also the word of mouth alone to that. Like that excites me. And we'll even see maybe Kyle Edward Ball, I believe that's what their name is,
Yeah, Lisa.
maybe they will succumb to that same sort of notion. Their new film sounds absolutely ballistic. Um, but at the end of the day, I really did appreciate this film, and I could see myself like, you know, luckily since you have moved out and we're in this space right now, I don't live with you, not yet, don't worry, that you
Not
know
yet.
of. Um, you've been hosting like movie nights and such, and I could definitely at some point down the line seeing this be like a potential watch. Would it go over well with everyone? I don't know. But I do think that like for what this film is occupying in the territory it lives in, there is a lot of things that are done to such great effect. And I vibe very heavy with what this motherfucker is putting down and I pick it up. And it's funny because like I think there is a great commentary being done about I think that's, like, why Longlegs works so well for me because I think Osgood Perkins is often kind of, like, poking holes at the mystique that people create when it comes to true crime podcast fetishization. Jesus Christ,
Mm,
that's a tough word. Um, and, like, a lot of times what people hated about it was, like, and I can understand, the text is pretty simple. Like, there is no deep nuance behind the killer in that movie, you know? They're
Mm,
just a fucking goober. They're just a weird goober.
yeah.
Um, and when I look at that, I think there's plenty of ideas and examples to come up with, but nobody's really done like a podcast horror film, you know?
No, I think the best example of kind of like poking and like x-raying kind of this fascination with true crime horror and like its place in like mainstream film, or not even filmmaking, but rather like content schlop,
Mhm.
podcast videos. Everyone's seen like a million of the fucking like true crime explained videos on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, is Red Rooms. And I think that probably hits
Sure.
it on the head the best, but even that is not specified to a podcast format.
No.
Um, but yeah, no, I think that as someone who grew up loving like auditory horror stuff,
Mhm.
because back when we were growing up, podcasts weren't, well, I don't want to say weren't a thing, but
No, there was one, I forget what the name is. I wanna say it was, like, ran by, like, 2 women. It was huge, 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 huge stuff. But no, like, we were on, like, Busta, Joe Chill's, like, Top 15,
yeah,
like, all that good shit, you know? And
yeah.
there is a part of me that really is forever chasing that feeling, because when they get it right, whether it's the sound equipment they use or the audio, the ambient audio in the background, like,
Or
I'll
the atmosphere you find yourself in.
oh, fuck, dude, like, I couldn't even tell you, the 2 most like, prevalent examples that I have, funny enough, was when I was downstairs at my old house's living room, but mind you, and, like, there's plenty of photos I could probably draw up of what the house was, but, like, the living room, if you are facing the TV, behind you would be the staircase to go up the stairs.
Okay.
And so it's a beautiful home when it's, like, in the daytime because the sun goes through it, has very high ceilings, um, but, like, at any time, if my dad or my stepmom woke up, they could, like, not even have to walk out their room, and they could see that I was downstairs playing GTA.
Yeah.
And I was, like, doing what I would call being like an NPC, like, driving and abiding by the traffic signals. You could go to theater mode, change it to, like, thunder and lightning, and I remember I had my Skull Candy headphones with the left earbud, like, blown out, and I was listening to it, and it was just, I think, the unease of, like, them catching me, but also being in this huge space. But the one that comes to mind the most was when I listened to, like, a top 15 video, and I remember it was, like, a story about, like, a demon haunting this family, and I chose to listen to it as we're driving back down from Big Bear, and I remember,
Mm,
like, my dad was going, like, extra slow and just the vibe of it, and I'll never forget that as far as I live, but,
yeah,
you know, I think that's, like, those are the things that mold us into who we are.
very much so. I think a big part of auditory listening, like for horror content specifically, is so contingent on atmosphere.
Mhm.
And I think a lot, or I think a lot about, ooh, I cannot English.
You're
I
okay.
do think a lot about the settings that I was in when I would listen to those stories, and a lot of on repeat, a lot of like comfort, funny enough, just very nostalgic, very comforting to me.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I think that for the most part, Undertone got it correct. I think that it had a good understanding of how to make audio stuff scary.
Yeah.
Do I think it goes a bit too down like the haunted house rabbit hole? Sure,
Mhm.
yeah, but also that's like a preference thing, and that's like the movie it wanted to be, and as that movie, it was very effective. Um, but I will be curious if someone can pull off a similar format to an undertone, also kind of
Mhm.
poking at like the podcast oriented stuff like that, while also making it feel fresh. Because, like I said before, like it's a very simple idea that feels like it hasn't been done yet. And the
Mhm.
fact that it's been done now, does it now just reserve the one and only spot at the
Yeah.
podium for auditory horror film? Obviously, there's tons of examples where there's more than just the visual aspect. I mean, Skinamarink is one where the audio is so crucial to how that
Yeah.
movie flows and you know and operates. But I don't know. I think that for a movie that was overhyped and then subsequently started getting berated with the mid accusations,
Mhm.
it's actually pretty good. It was a pretty good film. Excited for what Ian Tuason does next, and I I'm excited where horror goes. Not just in like the maximalist weapons, malignant, Smile 2 areas, but I mean, new Jane Schoenbrunn coming out this year.
Mm,
Come on now.
don't fucking.
Actually, big shout out to Royal Going to the World's Fair. That does it very well.
I think we will have a lot to talk about when Teenage Sex Death Camp at Camp Mishima.
Jane Schoenbrunn number 3.
Yeah. Because I'm even like looking and oh yeah, and I think we both, by the way, give it what 3.5 Beneflicks out of 5.
I agree with that.
Okay, yeah, like a comfortable 7. Sorry, I was trying to check because my stomach is not feeling very good at the concept of yeah, dude. I guess apparently the next horror movie we get is The Mummy.
That will be that'll be interesting. Also, one quick little side note, you brought up the whole campaign aspect of the scariest movie since blah, 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 or the scariest movie you'll ever see. Yeah, it's some bullshit most of the time, but that was the main marketing strategy for Evil Dead 2013, and you both know how I feel about that movie.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, unfortunately, I think like, and you can clock this if I'm wrong. Longlegs, I think, has done damage. Where like,
Yes.
because Evil Dead, that was around the time where like I think that's like a year or two before the Bye Bye Man and shit. Like found footage. Unfortunately speaking, horror was not looked at with as big of a crowd as it is now, that as it was then. And I think there was more oxygen for that to be breathing, where it'd be like, oh, it is that like the scariest movie of all time. And again, Loki, that movie Loki is the scariest movie
Lokes.
in many different regards.
That's true. I think that like what's that new one they're really pushing for, like Hokum? The fucking
Oh, the guy who did Caveat, you saw
yeah.
that, right?
No,
Caveat?
I saw Oddity.
Oh,
Oddity,
Oddity. And you
yeah.
thought that was just fine?
Yeah, another example of just an okay movie, but horror director knows what he's kind of doing. That movie looks kind of flat, funny enough. I
I
think
don't
that's what holds it
disagree.
back. Just British filmmaking. It's all those British motherfuckers just kind of make flat looking stuff.
You can say that
But
again.
he does know how to make a very tense and scary setting.
Hmm.
But like that's like their new push is like Hokum is the scariest thing you'll watch all year, and it's like Adam Scott, and I can't take it seriously.
No, I know he's trying to. I know he's trying to do some different shit, but yeah, I guess at the end of the day, friends, seek horror out, seek good stories out, and funny enough, like I'm finding more and more often it isn't the theaters that you're gonna find them. I
Yeah.
go. What I could not implore you any more than I possibly could to do is just peruse Tubi. Tubi, you will find some crazy fucking. They have some crazy stuff,
Yeah, that's
dude.
true. What? Yeah, if you or if even better, I think a better one, Canopy, supports your local library. Maybe not as big of a selection,
Yeah,
but it supports your
true,
local
true,
library. You get a
true.
crazy, eclectic and different look of things that aren't accessible on any other streaming services.
Yeah,
Shout out to Canopy. I found a lot of really cool stuff on there, a lot of short stuff that isn't on any other streaming platform.
I found my ass forgetting that I used the tickets, and then I realize I'm all out of them when I'm able to actually watch the movie.
Yeah, I forgot they give you tickets. Very interesting system, but
It is.
I do like Canopy.
It is. But anyway, friends, thank you so much for tagging along again. I always love doing these like single movie review episodes because at the end of the day, I think like that's kind of like what are is going to be the thing that takes up most of our catalog, which is
Yes.
going to be the days where we just talk about a movie. But it is beautiful. It gives a newfound appreciation for the art that we watch, and we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you so much for tagging along. Please email us in. It doesn't even have to be your thoughts about the movie that we just watched. It could be anything. Questions, comments, concerns, how much foot hair you have in juxtaposition to Harry Tyson.
Yeah, please let me know.
Please do, guys. I love you so much. Email us in at beneflixpod@gmail.com. You can follow us at our links in the description, our letterboxes, my YouTube, my Instagram, my TikTok. But please, if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment. You guys mean the world to us. As always, I love you so much.
Thank you
I'll
guys.
catch you later, my friends. Peace out.